Welcome to StarTalks powered by Advotalks. I'm your host Siraj, and today we have with us our most esteemed guest, Ms. Shagun Bhandari, a dynamic and foreign qualified lawyer at UK. She has pursued her specialization in law from King's College of London and has multifaceted experience in the areas of law, leadership, and administration. With a passion for social justice deeply ingrained in her journey, whether advocating in India or making strides in London, Ms. Shagun embodies a commitment to effecting positive change in the communities. Currently navigating the rigorous SQE candidacy, that is solicitor qualifying examination with Barbri Legal, she showcases an exemplary merit as a graduate from King's College of London and brings rich legal expertise with her. With her expertise in public law, family law, civil litigation, human rights law, and the competition law, Ms. Shagun stands poised to make significant contributions to the legal landscape with her unwavering dedication and diverse skill set. Today, she has joined us at StarTalks to express her views on qualification journey in the UK as a foreign qualified lawyer. I should admit that I'm quite excited to host her. With that, I warmly welcome Ms. Shagun Bhandari to our talk show, Star Talks, powered by Advotalks. Welcome to the show, Ms. Shagun.
I'm very much overwhelmed with the introduction, and thanks to the Forum of Advotalks for inviting me as a guest speaker. I would be quite happy to help you out with the understanding that you're looking for on around the qualification journey in the UK as a foreign qualified lawyer.
I am pretty much sure that this is going to be very exciting, Ms. Shagun. And let me start with an understanding from you on what are the primary steps involved in the qualification journey for a foreign qualified lawyer in the United Kingdom.
Sure. So currently, there are two routes which are available for any foreign qualified lawyer or anyone who's wanting to pursue qualification in the UK. One is through training contracts, and the second one is through solicitors qualifying examination. So basically, the training contract was more dominated with the law firms. So you had to be recruited by a law firm, and they had to grant you a contract, which would only begin 2 years from today. So if I'm applying for a training contract in the year 24, my job doesn't begin before 26. So this is a very long time, as you can understand. So the second route, which was very recently, which had come up, was in the year 2020, where they introduced solicitors qualifying examination. So this just makes the process a tad bit easier, where you don't have to depend on a law firm for your qualification, where you can give an exam through the SRA, which is the Solicitors Regulation Authority. And the exam is divided into two parts, SQE 1 and 2. And in the first exam is more theoretical, where you have to study around 16 subjects, and you give the exam over a period of 2 days, and the exam lasts for around 5 to 6 hours one day. And the SQE2 exam is more practical, where you do a lot of drafting work. But you, as a foreign qualified lawyer, if you do hold 2 years of experience in your home country or in any country for that matter, then you are allowed to have an exemption. So it depends if somebody is just beginning their journey right after masters, or they're coming after taking a break and practicing in their home country. So these are the primary two routes which are available.
Thanks, Shagun, for bringing that aspect of the steps involved in the qualification journey. So you have also introduced us a little bit about the qualifying exam that you mentioned about SQE. I know that there is a lot of impact of the SQ in the journey. So before that, I wanted to know some more key differences between the qualification process for those lawyers who are actually domestic law graduates in the UK versus those who are foreign qualified lawyers, Shagun.
Sure. No problem. So to begin with, I think time is a very major factor. So as in the UK, the law degree is only for 3 years as compared to the 5-year law degree in India. So if somebody is completing the law degree from India and they're going there, for example, for their masters to pursue it, you only have 2 semesters with you as compared to a domestic student who has 3 years lined up. So what people or students do there in the first year is they have like a check. So there's something called as an open day, where students can apply for this application 6 months in advance to visit various law firms to understand if they sit well with the culture of the law firm, the work of the law firm, the hours that people do there. So it's more of a networking event, but at the same time, you are in the firm getting to know from partners, getting to know from junior, so like somebody who's also a trainee solicitor, how their life is looking like and what is changing. So you have a chance to one-on-one speak to them to understand which law firms sits well with you. And then by the second year, students start applying for vacation schemes. So it is something similar to internships in India, what we do after every semester, but there it's only for 2 weeks, it is paid. And so basically what happens here, the student goes and they perform all the tasks which they are required to, just as you would do in your internship. And this is a very good chance for the firm to assess you over the period of 2 weeks. So if you have done extremely well, the firms offer you a training contract in those 2 weeks period, which is essentially a recruitment offer for like a full-time job, which would begin 2 years from today. So a student getting their training contract in the second year will be able to start after 2 years once you're graduated. And also with training contract, when you do training contract, it doesn't mean that like SQE you have to give exams and TC don't have to give exams. You do. So there was something called as the LPC route, which is coming to an end because when in 2020 SQE was introduced, LPC was supposed to leave slowly within the next 10 years. So I'm guessing by the year 2030, LPC would not be running anymore and firms would only be doing SQE route where you have to go and give the exams. So an LPC was basically like you enroll into university for another year to do legal practice subjects, so something like criminal procedure, civil procedure, so some more practical subjects that you get to learn, and what the firm specializes in, the firm will ask you to do those subjects. So now depending on the firm, they may give you a sponsorship to do that degree or not, depending on the firm's capacity. But so for example, a student would get a training contract in third year, they will still have 2 years still left before they begin. So, or even after they graduate. So they'll start their LPC degree, they'll get some work experience in the meantime when they begin. So it's like a pipeline. That pipeline is set, but for a student who is a foreign student, for example, a foreign qualified lawyer, you're not in this pipeline. You're trying to get into that pipeline from like the third step or the fourth step, which makes it more difficult.
Right, right. There's a lot of emphasis on the training contracts that you have mentioned that kind of, helps a lot for the foreign qualified lawyers. And also there is this aspect of LPC where the enrollments happen with the universities for the legal procedures also. I think like this is much insightful for those out there. Let's continue the discussion, Shagun, further. So you have already introduced a bit about the qualifying examination, the SQE. So how do you see that the SQE is going to impact the qualification pathway for a foreign lawyer intending to practice in the UK?
I think there are two parts to it. So, because solicitor's qualifying examination is not like jurisdiction bound that you have to fly down to the UK to do that exam. So, for example, an Indian student after their 5 years of law degree can take that examination from their home country. So they can do their SQE from India and practice for 2 years within India, and then they can register themselves with the SRA that hey, we have passed the SQE1 exam, and because we have 2 years of experience, they're also exempted from SQE Part 2, and they can enroll with the SRA, which is essentially the Solicitors Regulation Authority, and they can be registered as a solicitor. So this gives you an added advantage that you need not be in that country, need not take another master's degree, take out a student loan, begin your journey somewhere else in a different jurisdiction only to qualify as a solicitor. It gives you a lot of autonomy in your own country as well. So this is something that I can look back to and say to another student in India who's wishing to be a solicitor in England, is a this is one of the ways. So this gives you like an added advantage that you can do things here. But somebody in the UK like me, I did my master's, that is master's in law from UK, and then I am giving the exam in the UK while studying there to get those 2 years of experience in the UK. So this is majorly because I want to practice in the UK after being qualified. So there are two things. You can be qualified and you can just go for your clients. For example, if your client is sued from London, that happens a lot of times, and the forum is in London. So now you have an added advantage that you're already on the roll. But for somebody who wants to just practice in the UK, I think those 2 years of essential experience from the UK makes a big difference. Because at the end of the day, if you're a solicitor on paper, but once you go to the UK and you are wanting to be with a law firm and getting recruited there to start your journey as a solicitor, I think it will be very difficult for you to translate your legal skills and to make them understand what you can do or bring to the table.
Great, Shagun. Great. That's a kind of, something that is of much of a relief, especially when it comes to the logistics and a lot of other aspects, I guess. We have seen times during the COVID as well. I think it would have been very pretty much useful. The provision of this kind of 2 years experience not being in UK, but kind of get it attributed from this particular authority that you have mentioned, and also the exemption from the part two, as you mentioned, when you enroll with the authority. I think these are the key takeaways for those aspirants who are looking forward, right? So let's continue. So at the aspect of the typical challenges that a foreign qualified lawyer may face during the qualification process in the UK, and what is your take, and then how one can actually overcome them, and then try to plan it in advance.
That's a very good question. So I think when students fly to the UK, I was one of them. That when you do your masters, that when you graduate, just like in India, you will get like a job, you'll apply, and then you begin your journey as a junior, and then you slowly escalate. So that bubble burst very fast because that's not how it happens there. There's a lot of emphasis is on qualification for sure, because the only thing that is happening right now is there are varied routes. So no two people's experience or journey of becoming a solicitor would kind of be similar, because somebody after their masters would want to get a job because you need to sustain yourself, so they can start being a paralegal in the UK. So when you're a paralegal and you're working like as of a paralegal for 2 years, even that experience is counted in the SRA. Sometimes your compliance experience with the law firm is also counted. I have had friends and colleagues who were doing PA, like personal assistants to partners, and that experience was counted as well. So you never know what sort of experience that you bring to the table will be counted. So I always say that legal experience, at least in this market, which is very tight as of now in the UK, any sort of legal experience is good experience. And talking about the qualification journey, which I feel was difficult, I think there are certain laws which you need to relearn of that particular jurisdiction. As far as what comes to my mind is constitution. So where in the Indian constitution you are given like certain pillars, like I don't know, like constitution is supreme, very normal. Out in the UK, parliament is supreme. So I remember just like for 1 week putting all wrong answers to my constitution book because you have to relearn certain things of that particular jurisdiction. So I think that takes time, but not to say that your experience or your learning from contracts or torts, something that you've done in your own jurisdiction, will always be counted. So I feel like the difficult part for me was to relearn certain laws, to segregate. This is the UK. This is India, or like certain new laws which I had not done in my undergrad. For example, like trust law, I didn't do in my undergrad with that in that depth. So just learning new things which were more country oriented, and also their legal practice way was different. So like it wouldn't be like you have like district court and then you go to high court, like their hierarchy would be different. So just like basic things of law, like basic things where you file in the application, how you file in the application, the procedural codes, all of those things are going to be different. So relearning was a very important part of like unlearning that okay, this is applicable in India, and then relearning what is applicable in the UK. And so I think the difficult part was the SQE, like going through that, and the 2 years experience in the UK, because it was very difficult to explain to the UK recruiters, at least for paralegal roles, what you bring to the table from your Indian experience, because they majorly wouldn't understand, as they have a very big segregation of being a barrister and a solicitor, which we don't as such have in India. So explaining to them that as an intern, if you have drafted petitions or an affidavit, how is it different, because their paralegals are only doing case research and the barrister trainees are drafting petitions. So they're like, this is good experience, but not really counted. Like to explain to them. So I think get you basically begin your journey again. if you enter the UK market.
Right, there's a lot of aspects that you mentioned, like unlearning and relearning. Definitely, one will struggle between what has been already acquired as a knowledge may not be kind of something that is um, no more valid, or probably we can say few aspects are partially valid. So that kind of difference is something that you have to grab. And also the SQE part that you mentioned, definitely these are going to be something that foreign qualified lawyers or the aspirants have to have a grab on. So probably I want you to give more understanding on the specific requirements or qualifications that the foreign lawyers must meet before commencing the qualification process in the UK.
Like, I have also seen students have a different journey, as they were not yet firm qualified. Let's say they're in the second year, third year in the law school in India. And if you apply for your training contract, then so you would also, and you secure it, and if you manage to secure it, you will have that upper hand that by the time you graduated in India, you have a job lying down for you in wherever in the world, for example, London or somewhere in England, when we're talking about the UK jurisdiction. So I feel like we just don't have the right knowledge at times, and that's very important. And in today's day and world age, like as I mentioned to you, open days are in person, but after COVID, that change was brought in. Open days became virtual as well, so you can still connect and network through your LinkedIn or sign up for all virtual events in the UK and understand those companies better. And then, or also maybe like get a mentor. Like I feel like mentor is so important. Somebody's already been in that part or in that journey, and just ask them for like their help. And I'm very sure whoever's cracked as a foreign qualifier in the UK always has this like soft corner to explain to you, I have been through this, don't go through this again. So they will always be ready to mentor you and to just explain at least the process that is very minimal. And so if you get like a good mentor and if you put in your applications in time, you might just be hired when you're doing your undergraduation in India. And I think what better? So this is one of the things which a law student, a foreign law student can start within India, before, even before they are like on the roll or on the bar. And after that, for example, somebody is a bit late or they realize that they want to practice law outside India little late after their graduation, which is also normal. I think the other route is again masters. You can do your master's degree abroad, as the way they say it, but I would today recommend do your SQE first, because if your qualification is already done, because they really don't care if you've done undergrad or if you've done masters, they care have you sat the SQE, which is a very important and a very difficult exam. Have you passed it? You need to pass it in 3 attempts. So you only get 3 attempts within 6 years. So if you do not pass it in those three attempts within 6 years, you have to wait until your time lapses from your first attempt, and only then you can sit for the next 6 years. So something similar to like what, I don't know, like chartered accountants have here. You have only specific times of attempts to give this exam. And for example, if I'm going into the details of it, then for your SQE1, you have FLK1, FLK2. That is day one exam and day two exam. So, for example, you pass in your day one exam and you fail your day two exam. That is still okay. In entirety, you failed your SQE1, but you can, when you're sitting your re-exam, you just give one group. Then you're giving only your day two exam. So, like the strategy always is that if you realize 1 month before exam, okay, I feel like it is a bit overwhelming. This is very difficult. You start concentrating only on day one or day two of that exam, that you at least pass one group, that in your redo you don't have to do both the groups again because you've passed half of each group.
Right, a lot of aspects on the training contracts and attending the conferences are also kind of pretty much useful, as you have mentioned, Shagun. So, what are other resources or the support systems that are available for foreign lawyers to navigate the qualification process, effectively? As you mentioned, there are some challenges, and then there are certain different levels of examinations that are there. So, how can one actually plan with this particular set of resources available out there?
I would It would have a two-part answer. One, if you're in the UK and if you're outside the UK. I'll go first in the UK. For example, you've come there for your masters. then you have a lot of resources to hold you, like your particular university's careers team. They are brilliant. So for me, it was like King's College London. So like the King's career team, they are brilliant. They know what the students have been going through the undergrad and the masters, and they can direct you into the pipeline. They also check your applications, and there are also different like entities like Bright Network or aspiring solicitors or grow mentoring. So basically, when you register yourself on these websites, they're like charity run by different trainee solicitors who one day were in your place and then they realized there's a gap and they wanted to fill this gap. And so they connect you to a mentor. So for example, I'll fill in my application. I'm an Indian foreign qualified lawyer, so they try to connect me to somebody who's also an Indian foreign qualified lawyer who qualified within the UK. And you fill in the application like 3 months in advance. They take you like a month or 2 months to match you with the correct mentor, and then you can have like a monthly check-in with the mentor. And these platforms, also certain platforms are paid subscriptions, certain are free, and you can ask them to check your applications. For me, what helped me the most was like the King's career team was great, so I would send in my applications to them for them to check if they think it was succinct, grammar check, spell check, anything. Like a third person's view on those applications is very important. A peer view at times is also important, because you're sitting with that application for 2 weeks and you're like, maybe this makes sense, but you just need a third person's view to tell you that it does, or if it doesn't. So certain things that helped me within the UK for support were like universities, peers, mentors, somebody who's been through this journey before. I feel like there's a very less conversation around it. At least, like there are a lot of like Asian groups, there are a lot of Indian groups, like a network of students who have done this before. So I feel like network is network. Do that. And even if you're an introvert, just read up on the internet, sign up for different way. For me, Instagram was of help. I went on Instagram to just look for like bloggers who are just like putting in a day in a trainee solicitor's life. So then they would have like Instagram channels, which is actually appreciated in the UK, where you're talking about the UK law or you're talking about your qualification journey. So just following them, they have different blog posts which you can read about. So I think as much knowledge as you can gather, even like this video that we're doing today. So as much knowledge as you can gather, it's great resource. So this was great in the UK, and if I were in India and if I would need help, I would go to my seniors. I would go to my seniors in my university who have done this before. I would reach out to people on LinkedIn, pester them to the point where it is polite.
So right, like as you mentioned, a lot of help may come from these circles as well as the social media, as you mentioned, the YouTube videos in the form of blogs, or you reach out to people from the LinkedIn or the through the Instagram, and a lot of channels are also there. And you also brought certain help groups like Bright Network, and as well as these mentoring kind of a platform, Grow Mentorship, mentoring aspiring solicitors is something that you have brought. These are definitely kind of tips for those aspirants who are looking forward for a or from a foreign qualified background to become a lawyer in the UK. Shagun, let's continue to take some more couple of questions. I wanted to understand, are there any specific particular areas of law where foreign qualified lawyers may encounter some more additional hurdles during their qualification journey in the UK?
I think again, like a two-part answer. First thing is like if somebody's coming here to do a university degree and then pursuing the qualification, because you cannot come to the UK only to do an SQE. That's because you don't get like a sponsorship for that or like a visa for that. So you have to come at least to do your master's or like an LPC or like a practicing degree, like which is with a university, or else if you're just doing SQE from home country, that would be a little bit different. So like a two-part answer, because the master's degree as well here was very different from what we did in India. In India, it was more oriented around the laws, where you use the law on the facts of the case and then you analyze and then you give your conclusion. Like that's how we did, or like case studies. In the UK, it was more research based. So like I didn't even have lectures like 9 to 5 every day, which I did in India. I had like lectures like 3 days a week for like 3 hours. So the first week I was like, what do I do with so much free time on my hand? And that's when you realize that the quality of research which they're expecting is exceptional. And so I had like few subjects which I was doing in, I did a master's in transnational law. So like there were a few subjects which I had never read before, and they're also a bit of like Europic centric as well, some subjects. So then you are reading them for the first time. So like when I was reading my human rights course, so when I had to read about the ICJ or things like that, so it was new a little bit in the beginning. And also like formulating your essays was different. So I had to like sit with the librarian, for example, like how do I reference like teach me the way it is accepted in the UK. Sit down with my mentor. So they had like what we have in India as well, like internals and externals, but like something similar where it's 20, 20, and 60. So in the first 20 marks, they'll give you like 1,000 word essay, which is much smaller. Where and they also let you have one which is not marked. So this is your try, and this is also optional. This is not compulsory because it's not marked. So I always say to students like do everything that is optional because it is going to make you prepared. Like practice makes you perfect. So I mean, perfect is a myth, but anyhow, like when you do your first practice, then you send it to your professor and they'll tell you like, okay, this was good, but I think you should redo this, like, and like this is where you can look it up. And that's where you get to know like for your main essay what are the different things that you can do. So I did that a lot. I did a lot of practice essays, I did the actual essays. And for the longer ones, it helped me. What was new more was reading. So like I never read 15 research papers to make 1,000 word essay before. So that was new. I feel like I had only 3 days of reading and it's like 2 days of writing or one day of writing. Where is this thought coming from? What made me write this? Who wrote this thought first? Like going back and researching. So this was like my master's journey, very different to the journey in UK, or sorry, in India. And also was the COVID batch. Some subjects of mine were like all online, so that used to be a difficulty, but I'm sure it's no more. And I think for your qualification journey, what is different, like as I mentioned before, certain subjects which are land centric, for example land law. So like property law is very different in India. There your land law is different and your property law is different. Like how you register a land to like the contracts that you make are very different. So like I had to learn certain things which was just the law of the land, which were obviously different. But learning that in a span of like 3 months or 6 months is very challenging because some law student in UK has done it over the period of 3 years. So I would always say that if you have a full-time job and you're giving a SQE, which is a very common practice, like for somebody who's practicing in the high court, for example, in India, and they're wanting to give the SQE, or somebody who's doing a paralegal job in the UK and they want to give the SQE, it is always recommended like do it over a period of 6 months or like 8 months, or some people start in April to give the exam for next Jan, like that long period of a time, because you need to learn a lot. It is not difficult. The length is the challenge, because there are 16 subjects. Even if you're doing it just like not really like long answer format because it's all MCQs, I think that is more challenging. Because for the exam you have a question and you have 5 answers. The challenging bit is no answer is wrong, all 5 answers are right. You have to pick up the best answer. So what looks best to you and the examiner may be very different. So you have to go to the and you have to apply that law within 30 seconds, and then so you have 1 minute and a half for per question. There are 180 questions. So you read the facts, you read the answers, then you apply the law, you remember the law, and everything has to happen in just like mere 45 seconds. So I think that was challenging, learning an application within a minute and a half. For like and your brain is going, when you're doing 8 subjects, your brain is jumping very fast from one subject to the other to the other. So like your grasp and your acceptance to the law and your application, some people only learn because that's what we did in India. You just learn and you're like, okay, whatever the question comes and I'll be able to apply, but that's not the case. You have to practice the application again and again to hit the right spot. Yeah.
Yeah, Shagun. So I think like you brought in your own journey where you did the specialization of transnational law. And you have pretty much explained how it was kind of challenging for you to understand the concept of the International Court of Justice or something else, which kind of is of uh, pretty requirement of that particular specialization. I guess whoever are trying to kind of plan out, so based on the specific area of the specialization of law, there should be some kind of focus on the connected aspects. And also you have brought in the emphasis on the research aspect, how much time you have to spend in, and what is the quality that you have to bring in when you're involved in in a research assignment. These are the takeaways, Shagun. So let me kind of take one more question and then conclude this discussion. I want you to suggest on the qualification journey. Are there any differences for law students starting their education in the UK compared to Indian qualified lawyers or any other foreign qualified lawyers? And also with your own experience, personal experience, and kind of anecdotes with your own qualification journey, or from those you have guided through the process as a foreign qualified lawyer in the UK that you wanted to bring forward through this particular Star Talks, Shagun.
Sure. I feel like, as I mentioned before, like in the UK, the very great added advantage of for somebody like an Indian student who's wanting to go right after their 12th grade to UK. I think it's a great choice for some people who can, and for some who cannot. I'll expand on that too. So I think somebody who is doing the domestic law in the UK, you are set in that pipeline. The university has carved it for you, and the law firms as well, because they've been doing this for a very long time themselves. So they know that what a first year student knows and knowledge. It's a 3 year degree. After 3 years, they decide if I want to be a barrister, if I want to be a solicitor. We today spoke a lot about the journey of being a solicitor. A journey of being a barrister is very different. They enroll into a course called as BPTC, like a barrister practicing training course. And getting in that course is difficult. Doing the practical course is very different, where you're just like cross questioning your witnesses, and those are your like daily exams, for example. That happens for over a year. Then to get your pupillage, which is basically your training time for 1 year after your course comes to an, only then you're a barrister. um, so that's why I feel like in those 3 years of law, the the UK has made it very structured, which is very different for a foreign qualified lawyer when they get inside the UK market, like understanding if they want to be a barrister, a solicitor, what route to take up, and then also understanding where they fit in which step do they fit in, and from where do they have to begin. So I feel like if there's a takeaway, one is patience, second is trust the process. You will have to give it time and you have to be ready for it. You, for your peers who are in India, their journey might begin at the age of 23 or 24, right after their LLB degree comes to an end, and yours may begin at 27 or 28. It is very common for people in the UK to qualify only by the age of 30, 31 as well, or for some people at 21. It depends which law school as well. So I feel like patience, time, persistence, because in 4,000 applications, only 50 get it. So persistence and knowing that your chance will come.
Yeah, that's a quite a takeaway, Shagun. So, the discussion is much elaborative, and then we definitely want to spend more time understanding various concepts and your own learnings that you've been quite articulative in expressing your views. But yeah, time is a constraint. That brings us to the end of the great, insightful conversation, Ms. Shagun. Thanks for helping us and our audience understand the various aspects of the qualification journey in the UK as a foreign qualified lawyer. We appreciate you for taking time for this talk show and sharing invaluable advice. Once again, thanks a lot from Advotalks.
I feel like it's quite positive discussion. And I hope I was able to address the queries that you have raised about the qualification journey in the UK as a foreign qualified lawyer. And I thank you and the team of Advotalks for calling me out here to talk on this. I'm very grateful that I could help like even one student. I'll be very happy.
Thanks a lot, Shagun. So that's about today's episode with Ms. Shagun Bhandari, which brings a lot of insights on the qualification journey in the UK as a foreign qualified lawyer. We hope this conversation was knowledgeable, and for more updates and information on legal concepts, Please visit our website www.advotalks.com, and please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Advotalks.